Visit our sponsor LiveWatch right now. Home security made easy. Plug and protect, do-it-yourself wireless technology. Save 40 to 60% from competitor systems. Patented ASAP instant message and fast response make responding to a potential emergency as easy as checking your cell phone and sending a text message to friends and family. No contracts and cancel at any time. The fastest alarm system technology ever created. Take control of your family's security with LiveWatch today. Click the link below. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. It is Thursday, August 27, 2015. Over the past couple of days, since the video, the last video we did covering Black Monday, the stock market collapse in Shanghai with the Shanghai Composite, the Dow Jones Industrial Average experiencing a 1,000-point drop, an anomaly, another flash crash like what we saw in 2010, I said a couple things. I made a couple very specific points. I said that there would be a radical, swift policy response coming from the People's Bank of China, which is exactly what happened post the collapse on Monday with a cutting, a slicing and dicing of their interest rates. I believe down a negative or another 25 or 50 basis points, something like that. I think it's like the fourth or fifth time they've cut in the past several months. And in addition to that, they lowered their bank reserve requirement. Now, there's also this expectation, I've been expecting for some time now, even though people called it outlandish and crackpot conspiracy theory, that there would be another round of quantitative easing in the name of quantitative easing 4 in the not too distant future, because the Federal Reserve has already lowered interest rates to zero. They've shot that last bullet, so the only thing they can do is to continue to bloat the balance sheet at the Federal Reserve, which currently stands at a $4.5 trillion plus, of which we can never ever pay back, and basically strangleholds our children and future generations into infinity until the collapse of America. But I've also been paying close attention and really just observing the past couple of days. In fact, I shot a video on Tuesday, which we edited, but I never posted. Maybe we'll run some clips today, because sometimes I think it's more important to observe than it is to speak. And it's kind of funny because in real life, I actually observe a lot. In fact, I probably listen more than I speak, which is interesting probably for you to hear that, because I come on camera every single day and I spout my mouth and I speak. But I'm actually a careful observer. I like to see what's happening, what others are doing. I evaluate things. I have very much an intellectual type mindset. I'm a thinker. I'm a very deep thinker. So I've been observing what's been going on over the past couple of days. Now, the video that I didn't put out on Tuesday that I recorded, I said a couple things. That not only were we expecting a reversal, that was a video on Monday, a violent reversal, which we're actually getting. In fact, we're getting a rip your face off rally today in the U.S. stock market. Oil up 7%. Some of the companies that have been very beat down, and I said this in the video that wasn't released, where I think there's some opportunities of a lifetime in the oil, natural gas, and energy space specifically. We're seeing names like BTU, for example, Peabody Energy, moving 50+% to the upside today. Now, Peabody is really interesting. It's a coal company, one of the largest in the world, where many people have thought is soon to declare bankruptcy. In fact, they're restructuring their debt right now and some of their bond holdings, etc. There's been bankruptcies in coal. Obama's been speaking about coal recently. It's been really interesting because I watched one of the pundits on CNBC about a month ago recommend Peabody, saying it was a great opportunity. At the time, the stock was trading around $3.50, something like that, only to watch it drop precipitously to 99 cents. I mean, it just goes to show you these people have no idea what they're talking about. And also, there's just total and utter manipulation in the market itself. It's absolutely and totally rigged. The entire financial system is, of course. I've talked about this for years. It's an illusion. The whole money system is an illusion. The fact that we print dollars out of thin air and it's backed by nothing, not by gold, silver, commodities, anything, it's just our faith, is a total illusion. But what's interesting about Peabody is some notes came out recently. You have to file with the SEC. George Soros happened to take a position over the past several weeks. He dropped about $2 million into Peabody, which is a drop in the barrel compared to his total multi-billion net worth. But it's very interesting because coal is supposed to go away. Coal, Obama's been speaking about this, and George Soros, of course, the shark that he is, who just feeds on the dead carcass of this economic illusion as it is, very famous for making, I think, billions of dollars shorting the British sterling, the pound sterling, in years past, just recently took a position feeding on the dead carcass of Peabody, BTU. Look up the stock ticker symbol itself. Since then, it has had a rip-your-face-off rally. It's up almost 50%, up 50% today in a single trading session. It's gone from 99 cents to breaking over $2 a share. It's just interesting because what people say are going out of business, what's going to be bankrupt, you got Obama talking about, is actually where the big money is moving into. It's one of the reasons I've talked about this over the past several months now, really since the beginning of the year. And I talked a lot about the oil collapse, how this was a weapon of war against our enemies like Russia and Iran. But this was actually presenting one of the greatest buying opportunities in your lifetime, in the history of the world, arguably, in some of these energy names. Whether or not it was the oversold oil patch, doesn't mean things can't go lower, but in my opinion, incredibly, dramatically oversold. Oil should be 65 to 75 bucks a barrel, in my humble opinion. We're seeing a rip-your-face-off rally in that today, up 7% in WTI roughly, or Brent crude. So we're seeing all of this action, all of this movement, and I actually think that the sell-off really was engineered. And I'm serious about this. Just like the crash in 2008 was engineered, I think that this blip that we just saw was a Federal Reserve engineered market crash. I think this actually plays into their game plan. And I've been noticing things that kind of been creeping me out as I've been observing over the past few days. I've been seeing a lot of satanic symbols, numerology. For example, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed a few days ago at one of its low points at 15,666. And the percentage point drop, you could also see 9/11, 9/11. And you might think, okay, that's just an anomaly. Let's not look too far into it. Well, I actually remember this specifically throughout the 2008-2009 crisis at the intraday low of the S&P 500. The intraday low, guess what it was 666. And I remember looking at this at my trading desk at the time. I was a broker. I used to work for Merrill Lynch. I was in the financial services industry. At the time, lived through the greatest crash of our lifetimes, where I got a lot of my experience. I talk a lot about this today. I remember looking at that and just it having a profound effect on me. And so that was the intraday low. And since that intraday low of 666 on the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, the S&P more than doubled. And I'm now seeing the same numerology, the satanic numerology now. I've seen it not just in the Dow Jones Industrial Average and 9/11, 9/11, again, the Illuminati like to communicate with each other. I've also been seeing this across other stock prices. I've been seeing the numbers again and again. And I've also just been getting this creepy feeling regarding just what even's coming out in the media. A reporter who was shot and murdered yesterday, which I have really honestly no interest in reporting on, because the mainstream media is failing to talk about the fact that the guy that killed the two white people, because they're always talking about race. It's only CNN and the bullshit liberal media that's talking about race. They're missing the point in the fact, although I think it's just a crazy person, but they're missing the point because they always bring up the race card, that the guy that shot these two white people, I believe a gal and a guy, reporters, was a black gay male. So he was black and also gay. But the only thing the Obama administration can come up with and the bullshit mainstream media is that it's a gun problem. It has nothing to do with the fact that the guy was black or gay, this liberalized transgender cut your dick off society. It's just a gun problem. Yet when it happens in reverse, in Ferguson, or we have a white cop tragically kill a black kid, or there's white on black violence, then it's a race issue. Then there's riots in the streets. Then you have people looting and setting ablaze buildings in places like Ferguson. But not when it happens and the perpetrator is a black gay guy who goes out and just is a crazy person. It has nothing to do with race, just like it has nothing to do with race when it's the white on black crime, just like it has nothing to do with the fact that the guy was black killing white people. It's just the mainstream media spins it because they have a racist agenda and a racist narrative to pitch, which is exactly Obama's agenda as well. He uses these events to basically push his agenda. Why? Which is why he always comes to the gun issue anytime something like this happens. It's why they're pushing the division, the divisiveness, and the overt racism, courtesy of Barack Obama. So I've been observing a lot in recent days. Also, I think that there's a common misconception lately, a false narrative, we'll call it, where there's been a lot of blame on China, that, the reason we're having all these problems and the stock market crash is because of China, because China blew a bubble and the evil communist Chinese, even though it's like communist capitalism over there, they're the culprits. you know, the country we're going to go to war with, and we're already at war in the not too distant future, but we're already at war with now. That's why they're running all these war games with our another great friend, actually, enemy, in the name of Russia. But there's this false narrative being pitched that it's China's fault, that, you know, that's the reason that global commodities have been crashing, and that, you know, their growth expectations weaker than what we expected. That's why the U.S. stock market is collapsing. That's why we have all these problems. They're to blame. Well, that's just a bullshit, convenient, false narrative. The culprit to blame here are central banks. It's the Federal Reserve specifically. It's policy specifically. Ben Bernanke, Alan Greenspan, Janet Hoare-Yellen, that represents these Illuminati interests, basically, these corporate interests. They're responsible. They're the ones blowing up these magnificent bubbles that pop. They're the ones creating all this volatility in the market, these, you know, downward price moves followed by intense volatility to rip your face off on the upside, like what we're seeing today. They're the ones bloating the balance sheet of debt at the Federal Reserve and the U.S. national debt hitting 18 plus trillion, soon to be 20 plus trillion. They're responsible. They're the culprit. It's this economic illusion that war profiteers like George Soros are using to profit from that are the problem. It's HFT trading, these, you know, nanosecond computers, this algorithm that is the problem. It creates all this price instability. You can't match a buyer to a seller. It's these hedge fund managers that make millions and millions, if not billions of dollars a year. They don't pay taxes. That's the freaking problem. It's our government that's the problem. It's these bank bailouts. That's the problem. It's these criminal politicians. That's the problem. It's these banksters that are the problem. It is the Federal Reserve specifically that is the problem. So it's only a convenient false narrative being pitched by the mainstream media. Oh, it's China's fault. Yeah, that's the reason for the economic collapse. Yeah, that's the reason why America is in the toilet. So they can, of course, build us to war, which is exactly where this is headed. So, you know, it pays to be an observer sometimes, just to honestly kind of sit back and watch and see what's happening. These Iran negotiations have only proved that the United States is a very weak player on the international stage. The fact that the People's Bank of China has devalued the yuan, which should be no surprise to us at all, because again, that is the new world reserve currency. This all plays into global economics, the global power structure, and also the forthcoming war. This is economic instability. You see, the East is threatening the economic illusion that the West created out of thin air. And the West doesn't like it. These war profiteers don't like it. George Soros doesn't like it, although he's, you know, laughing all the way to the bank. Our politicians don't like it. The banksters don't like it. So, you know, let's have a clear focus here on who's the real culprit. Who are the real criminals? What's the real problem? It's not China. It's the Federal Reserve. It's these policies. It's these criminals in Washington, D.C., people like Hillary Clinton that blow up their email server and run through, you know, all these emails that shouldn't be coming through her personal server. Those people are the problem. These are the freaking criminals. It has nothing to do with China. It has to do with central bank policies and the fact that the East is now threatening the West's dominance. But, you know, we only have ourselves to blame. It's our fault. Not your fault, but it's our fault. Central bank's fault, the government's fault when they engineer these collapses. Just like they engineered the largest wealth transfer in the history of man in the world in 2008 and 2009. They profit from this shit. Just like they profited on Black Monday, and just like they're profiting now with a rip your face off rally. Again, the whole thing's a friggin' illusion. There are no fundamentals to this. Take it from a guy who studied finance for over 10 years, was in the financial services industry, who used to study balance sheets and cash flow statements. There are no fundamentals in the U.S. stock market. There are no fundamentals when it comes to banking. It's total and utter bullshit, a total and utter freaking lie. Again, it's a money illusion because it's backed by nothing. People like Ron Paul have said it for years. They're absolutely 100% correct. And it's the gosh darn truth. Get it out everywhere, make it viral, hard hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.